Welcome back to Iowa Live. One of the things we look forward to going to our mailbox every couple of months is seeing this in the mailbox. It is the Iowa History Journal, and Michael Swanger is joining us right now to talk about what is chalked inside of this issue. Michael, this thing is really something else. This is awesome.
Thanks, Lou. Good morning. Great to see you. Always a pleasure.
Yes, Heartland Hollywood. And when you think about movies in the state of Iowa, it's always, if you build it, they will come. But, man, the movie history goes way back, doesn't it?
No doubt. It certainly does. And, you know, it was a no-brainer for me to ask our mutual friend, John Busby, to write this series for us. No one knows more about the history of movies in Iowa than John. And the first part of his series, we're just touching on some of the icons, some of the big stars that people are familiar with: John Wayne, Donna Reed, Cloris Leachman, and there's so many names that he manages to squeeze into the story. But we also touch on some of the other stars from Iowa who may have been forgotten from a bygone era. Maybe it was Conrad Nagel or Lillian Russell. There are so many famous people from Iowa who've gone to Hollywood to star in big pictures and play big roles in Hollywood. And this is just one of those series that's been overdue for us. We've been wanting to publish it for quite some time, and we're just glad that the schedule permitted with John and our editorial calendar that we finally got synced up to get it done.
Yeah, you just saw Cloris Leachman there from the Last Picture Show, which is really cool when she won the Oscar there. But you said this series, so did Busby do the entire series?
He did. And as a matter of fact, just the other day, I was editing part 2 for our July-August issue, and that's going to touch on behind-the-scenes writers, producers, directors. And then the third part of the series is going to touch on the movie industry in Iowa, some of the films that have been made here, obviously the big ones like Bridges of Madison County and Field of Dreams, and then other smaller independent productions. So we're really trying to encompass as much as we can in this series and touch on as many parts of the industry and Iowa's effect on the movies as we can.
Now, Michael, when you're going through this article for the first time in part 1 of a 3-part series from John Busby in Iowa History Journal, again, available right now, is there anything that stood out for you from the first issue, from the first article?
I think probably just the list of names, and I know this is something you and I have talked about with, we have a collage towards the back of the story where we just touched on about 16 of the biggest names. And that's really just a small sampling of all the names. If you start researching how many people have acted, I mean, we're only touching on the biggest names. I think that might be the surprising part to it, is because there are just so many people from Iowa who have been in movies.
Yeah, we have page 20 pulled up here now, so this is what it looks like here. And just go through some of those and give some names out so people can identify, especially the first one. Did people realize there was somebody with an Iowa connection in Creature from the Black Lagoon? Really?
That's right, Julia Adams. And I think we've talked about her in the past. It's been a few years since we featured her. But, right, she starred in that classic sci-fi horror film that plays every Halloween on TV. She was from Waterloo. In addition to Julia, we featured Don Amici and, of course, Tom Arnold, Ashton Kutcher, George Reeves, who played the original Superman from Woolstock, Carol Morris, Jason Momoa, Brandon Routh, Kate Mulgrew, if you're a Star Trek fan. Gene Wilder went to the University of Iowa. Elijah Wood from The Lord of the Rings, and then Michael Emerson, who we were talking about as well.
Right, see him on TV recently too. Airy shows that he's involved with. But all these people have Iowa connections, and that's inside of this issue of the Iowa History Journal, which is really cool. But we do realize the month of May is also the month of moms, and I want to make sure that we recognize an article that you had in here, Michael. This is pretty cool.
Well, appreciate it. Thanks, Lou. You know, I don't often write about myself or my family, but I lost my mom in February. And the reason I wrote about her for my column was I hear a lot from people who complain about having nothing to do during their time in lockdown, during quarantine time. And with Memorial Day around the corner and, of course, Mother's Day, I wanted to remind people of the importance of spending time with family and talking about your family history. And Mom was great about that over the years. I asked her so many questions, but I'm no different than anyone else that, after she died, I wished I would have asked her even more questions. I not only lost a valuable resource in terms of our family history, but our community history. And of course, I miss her dearly. But it serves as a poignant reminder of spending your time well. Take the time to talk to your kids or your grandkids about your family history.
Right.
Write it down or create a pictorial history and give them something that you can pass on to them so they can add their own chapters as your family continues to grow over the years. And so I thought it was kind of a poignant reminder. I just appreciated every moment that I had with Mom while I had them with her. And I just would be remiss if I didn't share that sentiment with our readers.
Yeah, I agree 1,000% with you there. I lost my mother about 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, and boy, miss her every single day. So if your mom is still with you, get a reminder of this. Take a video of your mom. Have your mom tell a story. How neat would that be to have that forever? What a great idea that is.
Absolutely, Lou.
All right, now something else, we had a couple of more things we want to touch on that are inside this issue. Have you no sense of decency, sir? Boy, one of the most memorable quotes of all time. That is talked about in this issue, too.
It is. A lot of people may remember Senator Joseph McCarthy for what he did, but folks may not realize that the legal counsel for the U.S. Army was an Iowan, and his name was Joseph Welch. He's from Primgar. And if you go online, you can find the YouTube videos of those hearings. Those are from June of 1954, and those were the Army hearings against McCarthy. And he uttered that famous line on live television. Now, in today's political world, that seems like a pretty tepid response compared to what we hear now. But that was quite edgy and quite controversial when he uttered those words. And of course, it really was the beginning of the end for McCarthy. And about a month or two later, after he spoke those words on TV, he landed on the cover of Life magazine, and it catapulted him to a certain amount of fame. As a matter of fact, in 1959, he co-starred in a movie called Anatomy of a Murder with no less than Jimmy Stewart and George C. Scott. So we're touching on an Iowan, again, I think that a lot of people may have forgotten or may not known about, and his big role in history.
All right, one more thing I want to mention now. Of course, everything we're dealing with right now, the pandemic we have. We want to talk about the Spanish flu and how it obviously touched all over the world, but you have a real close contact here in the state of Iowa.
We do. When we think about what we're going through now, just to provide a little bit of historical context, the 1918 Spanish flu killed about 7,500 Iowans and a little over 700 soldiers at Camp Dodge. So we found a couple of photos from the Iowa State Archives. One is of a row of tents and nurses, people wearing masks, quarantining themselves. The other is a photo of a pass where students and faculty had to have a pass to enter and exit campus during their lockdown. So in some ways, things haven't changed. We've also been through this in 1957 and 1968 to a lesser degree with those flu pandemics. And it's really just a reminder that we need to band together. And I know people are probably getting tired of hearing this, but it is true. We will get through this if we work together. And all you have to do is look at your history books or pick up the latest copy of IHJ to read that and learn that.
There you go. Pick up your latest issue. And where can we pick those up, Michael?
You can get it at your local Hy-Vee in Des Moines. You can buy it at Beaverdale Books.
Wonderful. Michael Swanger, thank you so much. You stay healthy. We'll talk to you next time.
You too. Thank you, Lou.
All right. We will be right